We're looking at so
Yes.
many live feeds from across the region, and these are just crushing images to look at, to say the least.
This was going viral to all over the place. Look at this video. So this was a guy who didn't heed the warning, stayed behind,
I've seen
and
this.
look at what happened here. I mean, to be surrounded by flames in all direction with your dog there. So this is not what you want to have happen.
30,000 people are under an evacuation order in LA County as the massive fire is out of control. A number of homes they've already burned.
In this video, we're going to cover what you need to know about the LA fires. Parts of Los Angeles County, including Pacific Palisades, no longer exist. A confirmed 10 people are dead and over 10,000 structures have been destroyed. And around 180,000 people have been evacuated, and another 500,000 people are without power as 45 square miles have been consumed by fire. And that's the equivalent of 21,000 football fields, an area twice the size of Manhattan. And at the time of recording this video on Friday afternoon, it's not over yet. The Palisades fire is only 8% contained at this point. We're also going to talk about the other extreme freezing cold and snow locking down the rest of the country and what these extreme weather events mean to you, how artificial intelligence is changing our understanding of our future, and why scientists are struggling to give us a clear picture of what tomorrow is going to bring. You're going to want to stick around until the end where I'll tell you what you should be doing now. It's not too late to prepare, but things, they're not going to get any easier in the future. We're also going to have another giveaway, and I'll tell you how you can enter that. So let's go ahead and jump in. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. Now, in these weekly news segments, what we try to do is delve into the latest news, cutting through the hysteria and the misinformation to genuinely evaluate the impact of these events on our daily lives. Our aim is not to alarm, but rather to provide valuable information about potential impacts and help you get ahead starting on preparing for them. Now, there are conversations and considerations that we need to have. And I'm sure you'll agree that the world is seemingly changing faster than we can adapt. Speaking of pivoting and adapting, at the moment, as you can see, I'm still here in the new studio that we have not finished. Some of the components are laying around behind us. We had taken it apart during the holidays, and I had to come in here today to film this after some of the equipment that we've been waiting on has still not arrived, so I apologize for the way things are looking. At the moment, I'm actually recording in our studio. There's no power in this area. They cut off power yesterday, so I'm running on backup batteries in here, so I'm kind of using limited equipment at the moment. But despite all that, let's look at the major events happening right now and how that should inform you how you should prepare. LA fires. Wildfires have obliterated thousands of homes, businesses, schools, and entire neighborhoods. I personally have friends that have been impacted by this situation, and some have actually gone to try to help their family members in the area. Now, these fires, driven by 100-mile-an-hour Santa Ana winds and fueled by dry vegetation, they're not rare anomalies. They are becoming the norm. Now, scientists, insurance companies, and even some politicians really understand this grim reality because they go beyond the sound bites, finger pointing, and cacophony of misinformation to strictly examine the data. And the data tells a straightforward story. Extreme weather events, once rare, are now frequent, devastating, and unavoidable. Wildfires in California are often sparked by human activities, downed power lines, unattended campfires, and arson, and are exacerbated by the state's natural wind patterns. And with their low humidity and hurricane-force gusts, these Santa Ana winds, they act like a blowtorch, spreading flames uncontrollably across the landscape. Now, the winds pick up speed, and as they channel and concentrate through the valleys of the mountains and swoop out to the ocean. And this particular week's long Santa Ana event was out of the typical ranges in duration and intensity. Now, usually the gusts are around 60 miles an hour, but the winds gusted to a hurricane force of 100 miles an hour and sustained themselves at high levels, increasing with the super intensely heated air of the fires themselves. Now, this time the conditions were a perfect storm. Months of drought, followed by heavy vegetation growth from brief rains, then record-breaking heat, creating abundant, tender, dry fuel. And since last May, less than 0.16 inches of rain have fallen, a level of aridity rivaling the world's driest deserts like Death Valley or the Arabian Desert. In recent years, parts of the state went from experiencing a significant drought to an extended period of above-average precipitation that allowed abundant vegetation growth. And a stretch of intense, record-breaking heat followed, dying out much of the vegetation and providing ample fuel for large, fast-growing wildfires. In a perfect storm of weather and climate conditions such as Santa Ana wind gusts up to 100 miles an hour and low humidity, it allowed for the rapid spread of the flames. Again, less than 0.2 of an inch, about 0.16 inches of rain have fallen on the region since May 6th of last year. That's just 0.2 of an inch total in the previous 249 days. Now, despite advances in firefighting infrastructure, no amount of water, personnel, or air support could counter the combined forces of nature. A fire like this is a blowtorch or a jet engine applied to a mountain of dry tinder. And there's no way to get ahead of it, and no adjustments or infrastructure can contain nature's unleashed fury. Now, during the fires, water systems in the Pacific Palisades were overwhelmed, with demand quadrupling normal levels. No amount of infrastructure adjustments could have avoided or prevented this. Hydrants are built to fight one or a few localized structure fires. For approximately 15 hours, water systems experienced demand 4 times the normal level, lowering water pressure and causing some fire hydrants to run dry. Now, this extreme demand left 3 1 billion gallon tanks that maintain hydrant pressure in the Palisades unable to be filled, with one tank running out late Tuesday, another that night, and the third early Wednesday. Even millions of gallons of water, they just simply would not have been sufficient enough to extinguish a fire of this breadth and scope, spreading at a rate of 5 football fields per second in multiple directions. Hot and dry winds, loads of fuel in the form of dry vegetation that can't be cleared completely, or you end up having an entirely different problem with mudslides and hurricane wind speeds. And it doesn't matter how much water you have, how much water pressure you have, how many firefighters and trucks you have on the ground. Mother Nature's blowtorch is just too strong. A firefighter's hose can deliver water within 75 to 100 feet for straight streams and 15 to 45 feet of spray patterns, and that's far short of the requirement to cover 5 football fields per second. Even air assets, the most effective means of fighting fires on these rugged mountain terrains, they simply cannot navigate the turbulent winds and were grounded in the initial stages as a result. And if you can get beyond the distractions of blaming water pressure or reservoirs, 2% budget cuts in forest and brush management, and simply look at the facts, you really start to see a different picture, a different future unfolding for us all. I think that's the takeaway here. A future in which these extreme weather cycles compound extreme disasters, and even the safest, most established neighborhoods become more probable by the year. Insurance companies, they know this. In May of 2024, insurance companies dropped and quit the policies for 1,600 households in Pacific Palisades. Now, what did they know that others didn't? They were looking strictly at the data in their actuary models. Heavy precipitation followed by no precipitation means tremendous vegetation growth, followed by a complete drying out of that vegetation. They were plugging the weather data into their AI algorithm actuaries and concluding that the forecast for precipitation in the area this winter remained low to non-existent. And the data models showed that the Santa Ana winds were intensifying year over year, and they knew that these wind events frequently downed power lines. They knew this from the Camp Fire in 2018, the Kincaid Fire in 2019, the Zogg Fire in 2019, and the Smokehouse Creek Fire in 2024. In 2021, data analysis revealed that 18 of the top 20 wildfires in California had occurred within the last 22 years, with an exponential increase in acres burned. And when considering the largest fires from 2022 to 2025, none of the significant fires from 1932 to 1999 remain in the top 20 in history. Then what it does is it indicates that all the largest fires have occurred this century. As a result, insurance companies, recognizing the high probability of such events based on unbiased data and AI actuary predictions, they've dropped the coverage for 1,600 people. So blaming water pressure, forest management, or budget cuts distracts from the bigger picture. The facts, they're undeniable. Extreme weather events are compounding in frequency and intensity, reshaping even the safest of communities. It's crucial to understand what the data reveals and what the insurers, scientists, and policymakers, they already know. These events are not isolated. They are our future. Now, that being said, you can look in the areas for which insurance companies are dropping coverage, and that may be anywhere in the country, from coastlines to coastal plains to grassy plains, mountains, valleys, or along the waterways. They're not looking at who is in charge. What they're seeing is an aging infrastructure that is incapable of rising to the challenges of ever more intensifying weather and weather-related events. Even this building where I'm filming here right now tonight, which I just bought last July, I couldn't qualify for insurance from the major carriers, which have mostly left the state. Instead, I can only get a minimal state insurance policy. Now, other states like Florida are now dealing with this same problem. And though the fires in Los Angeles County are far from over, the winds should finally be easing up. And that will help the firefighters from California, bordering states, and the countries of Canada and Mexico to contain the fires. And it's not too early for the rest of us to assess what really matters closer to our own homes. How old is the infrastructure where you live? How capable of combating the most extreme weather events and their related disasters are these infrastructure systems? Do you have an evacuation plan, or will you be abandoning your vehicle in a traffic jam when you're forced to flee your area? These are the hard questions you have to ask yourself as you prepare to face these inevitable events. Insurance companies, they understand what's likely to happen in the future, so it's essential to move beyond sound bites and engage in deeper conversations about the data, the what ifs, and when. Were you impacted by the LA fires, or do you know someone who has been? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Winter storm. As one part of the country smolders and burns and other freezes and shivers under a blanket of snow and ice, while wildfires rage in the west, the east experiences brutal winter storms. A massive winter storm recently swept across the southern United States, affecting over 60 million people across 15 states. Now, snowfall ranges from 4 to 8 inches in areas like Arkansas and Tennessee, while sleet and freezing rain made travel treacherous in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Georgia. States of emergency were declared, schools were closed, and over 1,200 flights were grounded. The storm also caused power outages for tens of thousands, with Texas and Arkansas bearing the brunt. In Dallas, shelters provided warmth for over 1,200 unhoused individuals as temperatures plummeted into the 20s. Now, the storm's rapid onset and wide-ranging impacts showcase how quickly extreme weather can disrupt daily life. The storm was the second to hit in Kentucky in a week, underscoring how multiple severe weather events can compound the strain on resources. Now, the National Guard was activated in Arkansas to assist stranded motorists, while states like Alabama and South Carolina braced for worsening conditions as the systems moved east. And despite advanced forecasts and warnings from the National Weather Service, many communities struggled to respond effectively, revealing gaps in infrastructure and emergency readiness. Even in regions accustomed to winter storms, the scale of disruptions highlighted the challenge of preparing for events of this magnitude. Such storms, while seemingly at odds with the broader warming trend, are not anomalies. Shifts in the polar vortex and jet stream, they can bring cold Arctic air further south, increasing the likelihood of significant winter weather in areas that rarely experience it. And these events remind us that extreme cold snaps remain part of our reality, even as the planet warms overall. For example, this storm caused the heaviest snowfall in Kansas City in over 3 decades and left regions like the Ohio Valley grappling with icy road conditions reminiscent of frozen skating rinks. The impacts of these storms extend beyond inconvenience. Power outages, school closures, and disrupted travel have immediate effects on our daily life, while the cumulative strain on infrastructure poses longer-term challenges. With winter storms expected to remain a recurring threat, communities must consider how to adapt to these extremes. And this includes enhancing local preparedness and reinforcing infrastructure, and improving access to shelters and resources during severe cold events. Now, these storms are something that whole communities simply can't prevent nor even effectively prepare for, but you can prepare to survive them. And while the fires in the West have forced hundreds of thousands to evacuate, these storms require hundreds of thousands to hunker down and bug in. And to do that, you need food, water, energy when the infrastructure fails, and many other preps. Simply put, we've passed beyond the infrastructure or government's ability to swoop in and save us, though millions, they still will depend on them, or at least try to. I would encourage you to please take the lessons from the fires and these winter storms, the outages, the road closures, and infrastructure failings to prepare as if your future self's life depend on it, because it certainly does. Have you been impacted by the winter storms? Let us know your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear how you're making it through. AI. It might seem unusual to discuss artificial intelligence amidst the backdrop of extreme weather events dominating the news, but AI is sharpening our focus on the future in unprecedented ways. Now, being digitally prepared for that future is becoming as crucial as physical preparedness. I just recently returned from the Consumer Electric Show, or CES, in Las Vegas, which I attended with members of our team. And the unmistakable theme of the event was AI. AI was woven into nearly every exhibit, from energy management systems to health monitors, personal assistants, and family organizers. And amidst the robots and other gadgetry was AI. And it permeated the technology from energy management to health monitors, personal assistants, family connecting planners to personal companions. There were exhibits on using AI to anticipate health problems and adjust whole cities for the change in the weather, from planning and building city infrastructure to turning off forgotten lights and adjusting thermostats. Far from being confined to robots and gadgets, AI is transforming how we interact with technology and manage our lives. And what sets AI apart is its ability to process and analyze terabytes of disparate data in milliseconds, something that humans simply could only dream of achieving. Now, as I mentioned earlier in this video, AI has enabled insurance companies to identify which 1,600 policies in Pacific Palisades were at the highest risk, where human analysts might take weeks to crunch the numbers, study forecasts, and compile reports. AI handles these tasks instantaneously, even making decisions such as denying coverage without human intervention. Now, predictive analytics powered by AI can evaluate claim outcomes, estimate costs, and determine settlements with unprecedented speed and accuracy. And we're witnessing an exponential increase in the data collected annually, from environmental factors like temperature and wind speed to personal metrics like heart rates and purchasing habits. And in the past, this data had to be painstakingly gathered, processed, and analyzed before actionable insights could be drawn. But today, AI does it all in real time. Even if you try to avoid technology, countless data points are still being collected about you, from traffic cameras recording your movements to transactions logged at stores. But what's different now is that these vast data sets are fed into AI systems, which draw conclusions at speeds and scales that we could have never achieved. Now, the evolution from traditional AI to generative AI, or Gen AI, marks another large leap. Traditional AI identifies patterns, makes predictions, and automates decisions. Gen AI, however, uses large language models, or LLMs, trained on massive data sets to generate new content such as text, images, music, and simulations. Now, this capability allows AI to create and innovate in ways that mimic human creativity. And it's only a matter of time before an AI system denies insurance coverage based on risk factors gleaned from your driving habits, eating patterns, or lifestyle choices. AI is already part of our daily lives, whether we realize it or not. It's embedded in the software powering our appliances, vehicles, smartphones, and even the news articles we read or the videos that we watch. And the thing is, it's not going to go away. And if the Consumer Electronics Show that I just attended is any indicator of the future, it's going to be pervasive and invasive in more ways than we can accurately understand. And maybe we ought to ask Gen AI how it's going to change our lives. Now, I bring this up about AI as we're trying to help you understand where things are heading so you can get ahead of it. The world is changing rapidly, and behind the scenes, things are moving faster than you can even imagine. Developing hard skills is, in my opinion, more important than ever. Beginning in 1 week, we're going to break ground here at the City Prepping community. We're going to build out our new off-grid backyard that we're going to be documenting. And we hope to show you how to get your own self-sufficient environment set up, even if you live in a limited space. Spring's going to be here faster than you can imagine. I encourage you to begin preparing for the upcoming gardening season. So what do you think? How is AI likely changing the world around you right now? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Giveaway. This week's winner is going to receive a Penguin Portable 10,000 BTU camping stove with a carrying case. All you have to do to participate in the giveaway is just simply comment on the video, give it a thumbs up, and complete the giveaway form linked in the description section below. And you've got to complete the form to be eligible, as that's how we randomly pick a winner and contact you. This information is only accessible to our team. And what we'll do is we'll use a random selection tool. We'll then choose a winner from the entrance and reach out to you via email that you provide on the submitted form. So congrats to our last giveaway winner for the Emergency Survival Weather Radio with a built-in flashlight, Nardis Schwandler. I'm sorry, I mispronounced that name. I apologize. We'll get that sent right away to you. Climate change. I know for many, this phrase is going to elicit an emotional response, and some view this through the lens of politics. Therefore, the study of climate change has been reduced to a belief that it should be either accepted or rejected. But just bear with me here for a moment. If you can consider the data for just a moment, which we'll do here, you might be as alarmed as many scientists and people in power are. This is a conversation that we have to have in context of prepping, and we have to do it while considering all the evidence and as free from our own opinions and biases as possible, because this is, hands down, the most pressing challenge that we're going to face in our lifetime in regards to our survival. Again, like the previous point regarding AI, we're entering a time of change. And whether we acknowledge it or not, it's here, and it is already impacting our lives in profound ways, and this is just the beginning. To ignore it any longer is to do so at your own peril. Now, the frequent "did climate change cause this?" articles appear whenever a new catastrophe occurs. The typical response is, well, sort of, but not directly, which it can be misleading. It can also be challenging to grasp something called global warming when suffering through the largest blizzard of our lifetime. None of that changes the fact that our climate is changing in ways that we simply can't understand, and that extreme oscillating weather patterns will become more frequent. Disasters will become more intense, and our safe areas will be transformed. Now, the year 2024 set an alarming record as the hottest year globally, with temperatures reaching 1.55 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and surpassing the critical 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold established by the Paris Agreement. And this milestone is a dire warning of escalating climate change marked by extraordinary heat waves, devastating floods, alternating periods of deluge and drought, and deadly wildfires. Last year, the United States alone experienced a $27 billion expense related to weather disasters, reflecting these extreme, profound human and economic toll. Some areas we deemed safest around the world have succumbed to weather-related disasters. Some food sources that we thought were stable succumbed to failures and blight because of too much or too little rain, too hot or too cold climates, or just too extreme of variations in the weather patterns. Now, globally, the climate system is entering uncharted territory. Over the past 2 years, an unprecedented surge in heat has pushed the planet beyond what most scientific models had forecasted. And while fossil fuel emissions are said to be playing a significant role in global warming, other factors such as rising ocean heat content, weakened carbon sinks, and atmospheric changes are equally contributing to the intensifying climate crisis. Scientists are urgently working to comprehend these changes, and the evidence is undeniable. Earth's climate is evolving more rapidly than anticipated, profoundly affecting ecosystems, economies, and the human livelihoods. The 1.5 degrees Celsius limit is more than a number. It represents a critical boundary to avoid the most catastrophic impacts of climate change. Every fraction of a degree above this threshold increases the frequency and intensity of droughts, storms, and heat waves while accelerating the loss of glaciers, sea ice, and biodiversity. In 2024, extraordinary land and ocean temperatures made this reality undeniable. The warming oceans, in particular, have fueled extreme weather events and have disrupted global climate patterns, underscoring the interconnected nature of this crisis. So has the Earth seen this before? Yes, but not in our lifetimes, not in our memories or our historical records. The impacts of climate change are no longer distant projections. They're unfolding now in real time, shaping the world in front of us. Preparing for this new reality requires that we, as preppers, act accordingly. And as the planet faces unprecedented challenges, the choices made will determine the livability of tomorrow. And there is no room for complacency in the face of a crisis that affects us all. At the very least, you have to take the old adage, hope for the best, but plan for the worst, to heart. You can only hope that the numbers and projections are wrong, but you shouldn't plan as if they are. As we're working to develop out the property here, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be introducing concepts to help raise crops in environments where heat is becoming a bigger problem. This is something that we'll increasingly be introducing on the channel as our food production and supply chains are already being impacted and will continue to do so. So how are you preparing for what scientists are already saying is happening? Let us know your thoughts on this in the comment section below. Look, when the barometer drops, the dark clouds form on the horizon, and the wind is blowing it all in your direction, it's not the time to spread out a blanket and have a picnic. It's time to batten down the hatches and get your preps in order. Look, I'm not trying to scare you here, but we have time to prepare. But it's not going to get any easier. We can survive a changing world, but we must stop denying that it's changing. We must stop hoping all day after day that things are going to revert back to the past. And if you believe that, you wouldn't be here learning what to watch for and what to prepare. I would encourage you to take this, what we've been covering, very seriously. Insurance companies, scientists, and governments are taking these events seriously. And from the winter storms locking down most of the country, knocking out power for millions, breaking infrastructure, and disrupting food supply chains, to the most extreme Santa Ana winds acting as a blowtorch and burning whole communities off the map, focus on the extreme events that are probable for your area. Get your preps in order in case you need to stay in place or in case you need to evacuate as your only option. As I always try to do here on these videos, I try to end on a positive note. And I'm not going to lie, this was something that I thought about a lot before I sat down to record this video. This year is starting off with some bad omens, I guess you could say, some things that concern me, I'll put it that way. I'm sure you feel the same. All that to say, why I do this, and I was fortunate to sit down when I was at CES with another large YouTube channel, much bigger than mine. He was in the prepping space and still is for some time. And I was speaking with him and his wife, and they were kind of asking what some of my goals are with the channel and where I'm going with this, what drives me, what motivates me. It's a great question. I was kind of picking his brain. It always brings a clarity why I do what I do. When I report these segments like I'm doing now, when I look at what's playing out in the world, it's easy to get caught up in fear. But I firmly believe as a prepper that it's up to us to prepare our homes, our family, to not wait for someone to come and save us, because as these situations get larger and larger, these events, we did a video a few years ago on polycrisis, and as we're starting to see these events fold nationwide, that are only escalating in size and scale, waiting for someone to come and save you, waiting for a government agency or your neighbor or somebody to come and help you is increasingly putting you at high risk, I'll put it that way. As preppers, we're not sitting around waiting for someone to come and save us, quite the contrary. And I say all this because I want to encourage you in this. You have time. As I always say, you have time until we don't. And while I am very concerned about this year, especially personally where I live in a very dry area that's not too far from where all these fires have happened in LA. We're about an hour away. Our area out here has not gotten any water really since May of last year, as we talked about earlier, 0.2 of an inch. And so I'm looking at this coming up year, and with the predictions on heat and other issues, I'm hoping the structure will still be here. I'll put it that way in a year. But I don't know. I'm doing all I can to, cut the trees back, create a defensible space. We're going to be setting in a water tank here soon, but I don't even know if I'm going to be able to fill the tank with the lack of water. So, we're on a well here. So it's all these things that I'm personally working through as I'm looking at the events playing out this year. And then, I'm concerned. I'll put it that way. But I'm not going to stop preparing. I'll put it that way as well. And it does drive me. I've got a family. Like, whatever the reasons for you, whether you have family or by yourself, prepare. Stay encouraged. We've got plenty of resources that we have, a lot of videos in our library that take you through the steps wherever you may be. I hope that you will take prepping seriously, like me, before one of these events impact you directly. I'm going to link to 2 videos in the comments and description section below and on the side of the screen here that I highly encourage you to watch after you watch this one. One is on bugging out and having an evacuation plan, and the other is one of our latest videos on 5 critical actions that preppers have to take in 2025. As always, stay safe out there.